parents argued. You turned your siblings against us, while my siblings quietly remembered their own stories in the grooves of the dining table, in the way they picked at their cuticles instead of meeting anyone's eyes. My brother's thumbnail was already red and raw. My sister's leg bounced under her chair so hard the teaspoons rattled. No one said, "That's not true." No one rushed to reassure our parents that I was the villain here. They just stared down at their plates like they were trying to decide whether they were hungry or nauseous. It was a Sunday family meeting, which is what my mom calls it when what she really means is, "You're all in trouble and I want an audience." I'm 30, my brother Max is 27, my sister Lily is 23, and somehow we still get summoned back to the house we grew up in like we're being dragged to the principal's office. The text had come 3 days ago. "We need to talk. All of you here." No excuses. No subject, no context. Classic. I thought about saying no. I've been edging into low-contact territory for a while now. But then Lily messaged in the sibling chat, "Please come. I don't want to be alone with them for this," and that was that. Now we were here. Same faux wood table, same beige walls, same ugly floral centerpiece my mum refuses to throw out because it was a wedding gift. The only new thing was the accusation hanging in the air like smoke. "You're the oldest," Dad said, leaning forward, forearms on the table like he was giving a presentation at work. "They looked up to you. They didn't have problems with us until you started this therapy nonsense." He spat the word therapy like it tasted bad. I could feel my heart thudding in my throat. "They're adults," I said, keeping my voice as even as I could. "They remember things on their own." Mum snorted. "Please, we know you've been filling their heads. You send them TikToks, articles, telling them they had a traumatic childhood." She said the word like it had air quotes around it. Across from me, Lily's eyes flicked up for half a second, then dropped back down to her hands. Max stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. I could tell from his expression he was replaying something from way before TikTok existed. "Okay," I said carefully. "Can we maybe start with what you think I turned them with?" Mum rolled her eyes. "Don't play dumb." "I'm not," I said. "I honestly want to know what you think I've said." Dad's voice sharpened. "You told them we were abusive." That last word hit the table like cutlery. Everyone flinched, even me, and I was the one who'd used it first, quietly in a therapist's office, then much later in a hesitant text to Lily and Max. "Hey, have you ever thought about how some of what we grew up with wasn't okay? Therapy is making me realize a lot." "I told them I felt like some things were abusive," I said. "I told them they could decide for themselves." Mum laughed, this harsh little puff of sound. "Oh, like they were going to disagree with you," she said. "You've always been the ringleader. Ever since you were little. Always starting drama." Something in my chest squeezed. That old label, drama queen, still fit like a too-tight shirt. "I didn't turn anyone," I said. "They started remembering their own stuff. That's not on me." "Then why are they suddenly so hurt?" Dad asked, putting heavy sarcastic quotes around the word with his fingers. "Why is your sister saying we gave her anxiety? Why is your brother refusing to come over unless you're present? Who do you think planted that idea?" I looked at Max. He shifted in his seat but didn't speak. "They're sitting right here," I said. "You could ask them instead of talking about them." Mum's mouth tightened. "We know what they'll say," she said. "They're frightened of going against you. You've made yourself into this wounded hero. Oh, our childhood was so terrible. You're putting that on them." Lily's knee bounced faster. Max started peeling the label off his water glass. I could see the moment their memories were pressing up against their throats and they were shoving them back down. They know what happens when you contradict the narrative. "Max," I asked gently, "do you feel like I turned you against them?" He hesitated. I watched the war play across his face. 30 years of keeping the peace versus the last few months of finally letting himself be angry. He swallowed. "No," he said, voice low. "I don't." Mum swung her head toward him so fast her earrings swung. "Excuse me?" He cleared his throat. "You didn't need help," he said. "We were already off before." I just didn't have words for it. Dad's eyes narrowed. So you think we were abusive too now? I think, Max exhaled hard. I think there were things that messed me up. And yeah, when my therapist says the word abuse, it fits more than I want it to. The room shrank. I could hear the fridge humming in the kitchen, the tick of the clock on the wall suddenly unbearably loud. Mum's hand flew to her chest. Therapist? She repeated, like it was a swear. You too. She turned back to me. You see? You started this. You and your healing journey. Lily let out a tiny, involuntary laugh at that. Sounded more like a choke. Lily, Mum snapped. Something funny? Lily's leg stopped bouncing. She lifted her head and looked straight at them, and for a second I saw the little kid version of her peeking through at the edges. Pigtails, wide eyes, always trying to work out which way the wind was blowing before she spoke. No, she said. It's not funny. She glanced at me, then back at them. You keep saying she turned us against you like we were happy and fine before she went to therapy. We weren't. Dad threw his hands up. Here we go. Lil, Mum said, her voice flipping into the high, sugary tone she uses when she's trying to twist someone's arm. Sweetheart, we love you. You're just confused. Your sister is very persuasive. I'm nearly 24, Lily said. I can think for myself. Her voice shook on the last word. Not from doubt, from effort. Mum's eyes started to shine. The pre-cry glimmer that always precedes. After everything we've done for you. You're all talking like we were monsters, she whispered. I felt my chest tighten again. No one said that, I said quickly. You're saying we were abusive, Dad cut in. What's the difference? Intent, I said. Nuance. Humans can do good things and harmful things. Abuse isn't a personality type, it's patterns of behavior. Mum rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. God, listen to you. Patterns of behavior, she mocked. You sound like a book. Because I read some, I said. Because I needed to understand why at 26 I was having panic attacks every time someone sighed at me. Dad snorted. Everybody has anxiety these days. It's trendy. Max's jaw clenched so hard the muscle visibly jumped. It's not trendy to wake up every night thinking you forgot to lock the door because your brain is convinced someone's going to come in screaming, he muttered. Mum pointed at him. See? That's what I'm talking about. You never used to be like this. You were fine before your sister started with all this trauma talk. I wasn't, Max said. I was just drunk a lot more. Silence. You'd think that would land with some weight, but my parents have this incredible ability to step over confession like it's a shoe left in the hallway. Dad shook his head. You kids, he said, leaning back. You don't realize how good you had it. We didn't go out drinking and partying. We stayed home. We raised you. We paid for school and clothes and holidays. And this is the thanks we get. Mum nodded vigorously. Exactly. You want to be angry at someone? Be angry at yourselves. You're adults. If you're messed up, that's on you. Something in Lily's expression hardened. I was 8 when you didn't speak to me for a week because I forgot to say thank you for dinner, she said quietly. How is that on me? Mum's head snapped back toward her. I didn't speak to you because I was hurt, Lily. You were rude. You didn't look hurt, Lily said. You looked like you hated me. I felt that in my bones. Dad waved his hand. She doesn't remember properly, he said to my mum. Like Lily wasn't even there. Kids exaggerate. This isn't about us. It's about her, Mum said, jabbing a finger in my direction. If she hadn't gone digging, you two would still be happy. She's poisoned you. The word hit me in a place I didn't know was vulnerable. Poison. It's wild how fast you can regress in a room with your parents. One minute you're a grown woman who pays her own rent and schedules her own dentist appointments. The next you're 7 and being told you ruin everything without understanding how. I swallowed hard. You're giving me way too much credit, I said. I'm not that powerful. All I did was say, hey, some of the stuff we went through wasn't normal. They did the rest themselves. You keep saying stuff like it's some big horror movie, Dad scoffed. We argued. We smacked your bums a couple times. We took your phone away when you were rude. That's called parenting. Max let out a short, bitter laugh. You smashed my phone with a hammer, he said, because I didn't answer one of your texts while I was at work. Mum threw up her hands. You were out God knows where doing God knows. I was at Woolies, he said, stocking shelves. I sent you my roster. You didn't send me that weeks, she insisted. Yes, I did, he said. You left me 17 missed calls, and then when I came home you said, if you don't want a phone, fine, and smashed it on the back step. Dad's mouth twisted. Well, you've got a new one now, don't you? Max stared at him. That's not the point. What is the point, then? Mum demanded. That you want to sit here and list every little thing we did wrong for the last 30 years? No, I said. The point is, when we bring these things up, you call them little and act like we're ungrateful. That's why we talk to each other instead of you. Mum's face darkened. Aha! She said, triumphant. So you admit it. You go behind our backs. You have your little group chat where you rewrite history. It's not rewriting, Lily said. It's comparing notes. She glanced at me and I flashed back to the night I first sent that text to the sibling chat. I'd been sitting on my bed, phone hovering over the send button for a full 10 minutes, drafting and redrafting. Hey, is it just me or? No, delete. So my therapist said, too much. Delete. What finally went through was, anyone else ever feel weird about some of the stuff Mom and Dad did growing up? Or am I just too sensitive? Lily replied first. Like what? So I told them one small thing. Not even the worst thing. Just, remember when Mum didn't talk to me for 3 days after I broke that figurine she liked? Max. She did that to me when I scratched the car. For a week. Lily. She did that to me when I forgot to call after school. It was like pulling a thread. More and more came out. Not because I was feeding them anything, but because once the first memory saw daylight, the others followed. Back at the dining table, Dad was still talking. If it weren't for you, he said, glaring at me, this family wouldn't be in pieces. I felt something inside me shift. I've been in enough therapy now to recognize the reflexive guilt, that urge to say, you're right, I'm sorry, I'll fix it. But underneath it, another voice had started to grow these last couple of years. You keep saying that, I said softly, that I broke the family. But the cracks were there way before I pointed at them. Mum laughed, sharp and humorless. Oh, listen to her, she said to Dad. She thinks she's so wise now. Bought herself a few sessions with a stranger and suddenly she knows everything. It's been 18 months, I said. Not a few sessions. Waste of money, Dad muttered. I pay for it myself, I said. It's my money. Money we helped you get. Mum shot back. Who do you think supported you through uni? You mean when you'd threatened to stop paying rent unless I came home every weekend? I asked before I could stop myself. Her mouth dropped open. We invited you home, she said. You guilt-tripped me home, I said. Every Friday night. If you loved us, you'd come back. If you don't bother asking us for help. That's not an invitation. Dad slammed his hand on the table, making everyone jump. Enough, he barked. We are not doing this. We don't deserve this. You're acting like we were some horror movie parents. We did our best. No one is saying you didn't do good things, I said, trying so hard to keep my voice level my throat hurt. We're saying there was also harm, and when we try to talk about that, you blame me for turning them instead of listening. Because it all started when you did, Mum snapped. You were always the difficult one. Always moody, always talking back, always making everything about your feelings. They were happy until you dragged them into your pity party. Lily made a small sound. Half scoff, half sob. I wasn't happy, she said. I was just quiet. Max nodded once. Same. Our parents looked between them like they'd been physically slapped. You're brainwashed, Dad said finally. By who? Max asked. By our own memories? Mum looked at me, eyes shining with angry tears. Are you happy now? She whispered. You've turned them all against us. Your own family. There it was again. That word. Turned. Like I'd taken these fully formed humans and spun them around until they saw things my way. Like they never lived those nights. Never stood outside doors listening to shouting. Never stared at their bedroom ceilings trying not to cry because that would make it worse. I looked at my siblings. At Max's bitten thumbnail. Lily's foot tapping the leg of the table. At the way they both kept glancing at the clock, calculating how much longer they had to sit here. They weren't imagining this. They weren't puppets. They were just awake. I don't want you against them, I said to them, deliberately ignoring our parents for a second. I never did. I just didn't want you thinking you were crazy for feeling how you do. Lily met my eyes properly then. It was like watching a door click open. You didn't turn me against them, she said. You just gave me permission to be honest. Max nodded. You gave us words, he said. Dad scoffed. What words? Victim? Trauma? Abuse? Boundary, Max said. Accountability. Apology. Mum scoffed. We apologized all the time, she said. You just never appreciated it. When? Lily asked. Name one time you apologized without a but. Mum opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. The silence stretched. For once, they had nothing to fling back. Finally, Dad pushed his chair back with a screech. I'm not going to sit here and be attacked in my own home, he said. If this is how you feel, maybe you shouldn't come around anymore. My gut clenched. 10 years ago, that sentence would have sent me into a full-blown panic. The idea of being cut off, of being disowned, used to feel like being dropped off a cliff. Now it still hurt. It burned. But there was ground under my feet that wasn't their approval. I took a breath. If you don't want to see us unless we lie about how we feel, that's your choice, I said. I'm not going to beg. Mum stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Maybe she didn't. I wasn't the scared kid apologizing for things I hadn't done anymore. You're choosing her over us, she said to Lily and Max, voice shaking. Max sighed. We're choosing ourselves, he said. Lily wiped at her eyes. And each other, she added. Finally, Mum's tears spilled over. Well, she said, standing up abruptly. Enjoy your sister's truth. I hope it keeps you warm at night. She stalked out of the room, footsteps sharp on the tiles. Dad followed, muttering under his breath. The bedroom door slammed. For a minute, none of us moved. The only sounds were the clock ticking and my own pulse in my ears. Then Lily let out a breath that sounded like it had been lodged in her lungs for years. Holy shit, she whispered. Max laughed weakly. That could have gone worse, he said. I stared at him. Could it? He shrugged. They didn't disown us in writing. We all laughed then, that wild, slightly hysterical kind of laugh that comes when the tension finally drops a few notches. Are you okay? I asked them. It felt weird, asking that when I felt like my own insides were made of jelly. No, Lily said honestly. But also, yeah, I don't know. She wiped her eyes. I was so scared to say anything. I thought they'd convince me I remembered wrong again. Same, Max said. He flexed his hand. I could see the crescent-shaped marks his nails had left in his palm. It felt good to say it out loud, though. We cleared the table together in a kind of dazed autopilot. None of us went to say goodbye to our parents. Felt pointless. There would be angry texts later. Maybe an email from Dad quoting something about honoring your mother and father. Maybe the silent treatment. Same old toolbox. In the driveway, Lily hugged me so hard my ribs creaked. Thanks, she said into my shoulder. For going first. Months ago. With the texts. With therapy. With all of it. I'm sorry, I said automatically. For starting all this. She pulled back and looked at me like I was speaking another language. Don't apologize, she said. You didn't break anything. You just turned the lights on. Max nodded. Yeah, he said. If we're against anything, it's the version of reality where we're supposed to pretend we weren't there when they did what they did. Later that night, back in my tiny flat, I sat on my bed with my phone and reread our sibling chat. Old jokes, memes, fight recaps, and now, scattered between them, things like, "Therapist said my nightmares are textbook hypervigilance, LMAO, love that for me." Anyone else get shaky when someone sighs? Or is that just my fun party trick? Just booked my first session. Terrified. Hold my hand virtually, please. It hit me how different it all could have been. We could have kept believing we were each alone, each too sensitive, each individually failing at being grateful enough. That was the version of events my parents preferred. It kept us isolated, easier to manage. Instead, they'd all watched us do the opposite today. 3 adult kids, quietly remembering their own stories and daring to say them out loud, even when it made the room explode. And yeah, my parents are convinced I turned my siblings against them. Maybe they'll always believe that. Maybe in their version of this tale, I'm the villain with the therapist handbook and the poisoned tongue. But sitting there, scrolling through our group chat, I realized the only thing I'd really turned them against was the idea that their pain didn't count unless our parents approved of it. If that makes me the bad guy in my parents' story, I can live with that. In my story, the one I'm finally letting myself tell, I'm just the oldest kid who got tired of suffering quietly and asked, "Did anyone else see that?" And it turns out they did.